Hey everybody, Josh Peck here. Hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be talking about the possible UFO connection to these missing scientists. There have been a couple of recent developments. Apparently, there's been an earthquake swarm near Area 51, and that's caused people to wonder if there's secret testing going on there. But also, there's a UFO. There are UFO whistleblowers that have issued a chilling warning after an Air Force officer was found dead before he could testify. So lots to talk about. Let's just jump right into it. All right. So unusual earthquake swarm strikes near Area 51, sparking fears of secret testing. Scientists are vanishing or turning up dead. Now ex-FBI boss reveals chilling plot likely unfolding, and who he fears is behind it. So, more than a dozen earthquakes have struck near Nevada's highly classified base in the past 24 hours. That's Area 51. At least 17 earthquakes up to a 4.4 magnitude were detected just miles from Area 51, a cultural phenomenon thanks to decades of conspiracy theories connecting the base to UFOs, aliens, and experimental aircraft testing. The 4.4 magnitude earthquake kicked off the seismic activity, striking just 2.5 miles underground, fueling speculation about possible underground testing. I'm curious to know what you guys think about Area 51. Do you think that's actually something, or do you think there's nothing there? Because I've heard people, even people that believe in UFOs and say that they have all these contacts and everything, that Area 51 isn't really a place that has a lot of this stuff, but there's other places. I don't know. Curious to know what you think about that. But it says the tremors were recorded in an area not typically known for frequent seismic activity, raising questions among observers tracking the unusual cluster. Geophysicist Stephen Burns described the location as an unusual place to get an earthquake, noting that the region has historically remained relatively quiet compared with other fault-heavy zones across the West. And of course, we have seen a big increase in earthquakes. We report on them all the time here, so there is that. But apparently, this is not a location that's normally prone to that. He also pointed to the shallow depth of the strongest quake, roughly just miles underground, a detail he said made the event particularly noteworthy. Burns adds that earthquakes and underground explosions can sometimes produce similar seismic signatures, especially when energy is released suddenly beneath the surface. However, earthquake swarms can occur when stress shifts along nearby fault lines, causing clusters of smaller tremors as the Earth crust adjusts. The Nevada desert sits within an active tectonic region where the ground is slowly stretching apart, making sudden bursts of seismic activity possible even near sensitive area sites like Area 51. So here's a map. That's the area that we're talking about here. I assume, since that's where the arrow's pointing. So at least 17 earthquakes up to 4.4 magnitude were detected just miles of Area 51. Wow. Okay, it says the latest earthquake to hit the region was detected on Thursday at 5:38 Pacific. More than 100 people reported feeling shaking to the USGS. However, the area is mostly home to military personnel, contractors, and staff. While Burns stressed that the event was most likely a natural earthquake, he acknowledged that there was some ambiguity in the seismic data and said the unusual characteristics made the activity worth discussing in the context of whether it was a covert underground nuclear test. You know, and whenever you read stuff like this, they always have to say, like, it's most likely natural, or it's most likely just whatever the least controversial thing is. And then if you get some more honest ones, they might say, but there is something weird here. So it looks like that we have that here. The Daily Mail contacted the USGS for comment. Reports of the earthquakes quickly spread online, with one ex-user joking the aliens are shaking the earth. Area 51 has fueled decades of speculation, particularly since the Cold War, when its remote desert location and secret operations made it natural target for UFO rumors. A 2025 report claimed that the Pentagon actually created the UFO conspiracies to conceal a classified weapons program. According to a DOD review, the government conducted a deliberate disinformation campaign during the Cold War era, going so far as to distribute fake photos of flying saucers to residents. So pictured as a mysterious structure on the base. So there's a picture of something. Not sure what that is, but apparently that's something at Area 51. In the 1980s, a U.S. Air Force colonel allegedly handed out doctored images of UFOs to patrons at a nearby bar, claiming they had been taken in the area. You know, that's the other thing, too. We know about all these stories. We know about the disinformation, and it seems like there's almost an attitude now where a lot of people think that can't happen today. Like, how do we know the stuff that we're seeing, Congress being a little bit more open about things? How do we know any of that's real? We really don't. They could be using that to get the focus off of any number of other things, maybe, or they're just using it to propel some other ends that they have in mind. That's why I say, we got to be really, really careful about this, and we have to make sure that we stay rooted in the truth, rooted in our Bibles, because that tells us everything we need to know about what's going on here. There's some kind of deception for sure, whether it's a disinformation thing or from our own people, from human beings, maybe from other countries, maybe from here in this country, whether it's that or a disinformation campaign from the enemy, the spiritual enemy. Ephesians 6 says that that's who our true enemy is anyway. It's all spiritual beings. If it's their disinformation campaign, then even more we need to be rooted in the truth and understand what's really happening. These would be fallen angels and demons doing this kind of stuff. So it says the photos were quickly pinned on the wall, igniting public speculation that alien technology was being housed and studied at the top secret base. The report claimed the grassroots disinformation campaign was an attempt to hide military testing, including stealth fighter jets, the Wall Street Journal reported. So that's another thing. They could be testing real weapons and just using the UFO stuff as like a cover-up for it. Maybe some of that stuff that was filmed was actually ours. We don't know. I actually have a theory that I wrote about in Return of the Watchers. I think I wrote about it in that book, but I've talked about it before. But we know in the Book of Enoch, the fallen Watchers came down. They taught mankind technology they weren't supposed to know. It was rudimentary, like technology, like shields and breastplates and swords and stuff like that. But it was still stuff that they didn't have at the time. People didn't have at the time. And they basically taught mankind technology that was later used against them, and we're still dealing with it today. Well, I wonder if that a lot of these UFO crashes is the same thing. These beings pretend to be aliens. Fallen watchers, fallen angels, whatever, pretend to be aliens. So they crash a UFO onto the Earth, but really what they're doing is giving us technology that they will use later, probably during the tribulation, to take control over the Earth. They're just having us develop it and having us get used to it. So they're manipulating us. Because otherwise, why do we see all these UFO crashes on Earth but nowhere else? You don't see them falling apart out in the middle of space somewhere. It seems like we would get some kind of you'd be able to see that. It's only on Earth that these things crash. As far as we know, I never hear of any UFO crashes on the moon. And people, there are amateur astronomers all over the world that are constantly looking at the moon. There's not a single crash there. If there have been any, it's been very few and far between, any reports of it. But on Earth, it seems to happen all the time. You don't see any on Mars. But on Earth it seems to happen all the time. I don't know. That to me seems suspicious. Also, what's the idea here? So they're aliens from another planet. They can somehow they've figured out warp technology to be able to even get here, because you can't get here just based on fuel. Doesn't matter how efficient your fuel is. You're not going to get here from any other planet like that. So, and I mean, these things have been abducting people and telling them that they're from these distant, far-off planets. they're lying, but the only way that would be possible is the whole wormhole thing. But a lot of people don't really understand just how impossible that probably is. I mean, think about it. You need enough energy to literally fold space into a higher dimension so you can connect 2 points. Stars themselves don't even do that. They do bend gravity, obviously, but they don't do it to that extent. Like this would have to be more. You'd have to have more energy, more power than a sun. Then it would have to be like maybe a black hole, but you can't survive a black hole. So it's so out of the realm of like possibility and reason. But a lot of people go to that. They just say, well, it could be aliens because they can do wormholes. If they were that advanced that they figured out wormholes, and because essentially that's utilizing an extra dimension of space that we don't have any concept of. How are they crashing on Earth all the time if they're that advanced? How are they crash? It just none of it makes sense. No matter which official story you look at, it doesn't make sense. The only thing that makes sense is when you actually read the Bible and you start looking at this through a biblical lens, and you start thinking about like the fallen angels in Genesis 6. Then it's like, oh, it makes a lot of sense. That sounds like the so-called alien hybridization program that they're doing, that abductees have reported that they're doing now. Sounds like just the repeat of Genesis 6. So Ancient Aliens is kind of famous for saying like, oh, all of that stuff in the past, they misrepresented. They misunderstood. Those weren't angels that they were seeing. They were actually aliens from another planet. See, that to me is kind of prideful, because it's like, well, we're so sophisticated, we're so smart, we couldn't be deceived. I think it's the other way around. I think we got it wrong. Like, it's not aliens. It's not aliens. It's actually angels and spiritual beings, like fallen kingdom of darkness stuff. But a lot of people want to think they're smarter than everybody else, and they if you ever watched Ancient Aliens, then you can get that attitude. Okay, so it says Area 51 is officially established in 1955, remained largely under the radar until 89 when whistleblower Robert Lazar appeared on television. He claimed he had worked at a hidden facility near Groom Lake known as S4, reverse engineering alien spacecraft, further cementing Area 51's place in UFO lore. I want to know what you guys think about Bob Lazar. Do you think he's credible, not credible? I've kind of gone back and forth. I don't know. I think I don't know. I think he's probably one of the more credible, but I don't know. A lot of I don't know. It's hard to tell too, because a lot of these guys, when you listen to them, they have their own interpretation of things too. So they'll say things like, well, we've found a UFO that was buried for like 1 million years. Well, how do they know that? Like, how do they know that wasn't put there more recently, like maybe thousands of years? Or it could have been anyway. So it's just hard to know, because it seems like everybody's deceived, right? Anybody who's not putting the Bible first is like deceived. So it's like, who's more credible than any other? It's like, well, I don't know. They're not using the Bible as their worldview for their framework of their worldview. So I don't know. Anyway, it's just hard to tell. The report also revealed that high-ranking Air Force officials hazed new commanders by briefing them on fabricated top-secret project called Yankee Blue, which involved a supposed study of extraterrestrial craft. After the phony briefing, recruits were warned they would face jail or execution if they ever disclosed the information. Details confirming that Area 51 served as a testing ground for America's cutting-edge weapons were first revealed in a CIA document declassified in 2013. The report explained that during the Cold War, the remote Nevada base, was used to test aircraft like the U-2 spy plane and the A-12 reconnaissance jet under a veil of secrecy. And that could be happening again. They might have a whole other form of energy that we're not really aware of. Who knows? Despite those facts, Area 51 has since evolved into a hotbed of alien conspiracy theories with persistent rumors of crashed UFOs and extraterrestrial autopsies. hidden behind its barbed wire fences. All right. Now I want to make, with the technology thing, the wormhole stuff, there is a difference between aliens from another planet traveling here and three-dimensional biological beings from some other planet trying to get here through a wormhole. I think that is pretty near impossible. And to do it where it wouldn't be detected, where that amount of energy used to do that, like that wouldn't be noticed. I don't think that's possible at all. Now, what could happen, and I've talked about this in Quantum Creation and Cherubim Chariots. Those are like my first two major books. But what could happen is you could have an extra dimensional being breach our 3 dimensions of space, and you actually don't need any technology to do that at all. That would require no energy. If you think about a hypothetical, like 2-dimensional universe that's right in front of you, and let's say these 2-dimensional beings, they're just like squares and circles, if you're familiar with the Flatland analogy. They can move around, but they don't have up or down. Now, me as a 3-dimensional being, I do have access to up and down. So to access their dimension, I could just put my hand in it. I could just put my finger in it. And I don't need any technology to breach their dimension of space. Now, if a 2-dimensional being wanted to fold their universe into, utilizing the 3rd dimension to fold their universe and connect 2 points, I don't even know how they would do something like that. You would need an incredible amount of energy for them to do that, because they're existing in a universe that doesn't have up or down. It doesn't have access to it. Now, our universe, our 3 dimensions of space, we can pretty much guarantee there is at least one higher dimension of space. There's probably more, but there's at least one, because our universe can be bent. We have gravity, we have time dilation, so our universe can and does bend somehow in some way. For it to, and we can't see it. Like when gravity happens, we don't see what's actually going on there. When something falls, we don't actually see what's going on there. There's a type of bending. So for it to be able to bend, it has to have something to bend into. 4th spatial dimension. I wrote all about that in Quantum Creation if you're interested in that. Quantum Creation. But you can just pick it up at Amazon or whatever. Oh, by the way, if you ever do get any of my books, please leave reviews. That really does help. But anyway, so there is a higher dimension of space, at least one. I think altogether there's probably 12 dimensions. That's what I think. Wrote about it in Quantum Creation. But there's at least one extra. And if there's one extra, and we know from the Bible, there's the spirit world, there's these angels and demons and all of this stuff. They're invisible. I mean, think I would be invisible to a Flatlander because I'm not 2-dimensional. If I breach their space, they can see one 2-dimensional slice of me. They'd be able to see a slice of my finger, but they wouldn't see the whole thing. They wouldn't be able to. I would be invisible. So I think that's what's going on with these spirit beings. I think they're higher dimensional, at least one, probably more than that. And they can breach our space. Now, I do also believe they do have more technology than we do. They've been around a lot longer. They're immortal. Imagine if you had Albert Einstein, but he could live, thousands of years. He'd probably have more time to figure a lot more out. Plus, they have all the knowledge of heaven and earth, and they were here at the creation, and so they just know a lot more. So there's really no reason they can't develop technology. I mean, they can breach our 3 dimensions of space. We see all throughout the Bible, there's plenty of times where angels show up in bodily form, physical form. So they have the ability to do that. So why not? Why couldn't the evil ones develop some actual real technology and then fake crash it to share it with us so we'll develop it and spread it around and get used to it, and then they'll use that later during the tribulation or whenever. So that's kind of how I think about the topic. All right. Let's see. The fact is, we just live in really unpredictable times, and unfortunately, the economy is not immune to that. In fact, it's a really great idea to convert some of your savings into real money. I've done this myself for my family to protect us. Now, what a lot of people don't understand, there's a big difference between what we call money, which is actually currency. So our dollar is currency, which fluctuates, but real money, like silver, is actually a store of value over time. So the best way to think of it is like this. If you had saved $1,000 in cash back in the late 1960s, that $1,000 would still be $1,000, but it would buy you significantly less today due to inflation. But if you had saved the same $1,000 in silver back in the 1960s, it would be around $28,000 or even more today. So one of the best ways to protect your purchasing power is in real money, more specifically silver, and Cornerstone Asset Metals is the only company that I trust for this. They run it like a ministry. So you can actually buy and have the metals shipped discreetly to your door, and what most people don't know is that you can actually convert your IRA or even a 401k into physical silver rather than having all your life savings tied up in the paper fiat system, which is subject to hyperinflation. So you can go to cornerstoneassetmetals.com to sign up to get your free silver report. One of the financial experts will speak with you to find the best way to protect your savings going forward in these uncertain times. Also, don't forget to tell them that Josh Peck from Daily Renegade sent you. That is cornerstoneassetmetals.com. You can find that link in the description below. Now back to what I was saying. All right. UFO whistleblowers issue chilling warning after Air Force officer was found dead before he could testify. We're seeing stories like this all the time. So, that's why we have to take this stuff seriously, because real people are missing, real people are dying, have been for this whole disinformation, UFO cover-up, whatever you want to call it, for the past several decades. A lot of people have lost their lives over stuff like this. So it's not a game. It's not cute. It's not funny. I don't like it when the White House now they're saying, oh, we're gonna release some stuff, and then have like a little alien head emoji, and like they're acting like it's this exciting, cute thing. It's like people have literally died over this. There's nothing cute or exciting about it. And all it's going to do is push more deception, because people are just going to keep believing the alien thing. UFO whistleblowers are facing alleged attempts to silence them as they move to expose what they believe are some of America's most closely guarded secrets. Investigative journalist Jeremy Corbell, who has helped bring multiple whistleblowers before Congress, warned that the risks facing these individuals extend far beyond public scrutiny. Quote, they're giving up their clearance, their security clearance, they're giving up their security, they're putting their family at risk, they're putting themselves at risk, if by stigma alone. End quote. Corbell, who details several cases in his upcoming film Sleeping Dog, told the Daily Mail. One of the central cases featured in the film involves Air Force veteran Dylan Borland, who testified before Congress in 2025 about encountering a 100-foot triangular craft near Langley Air Force Base in Virginia while stationed there. Borland told the Daily Mail, quote, since then, my family, former coworkers, friends, and I have endured a level of harassment I have never experienced. I do not know what the future holds, because factions within the U.S. government appear to be openly and knowingly working to cover this up, end quote. He alleged that false documents were created in intelligence products generated under his name. Following his testimony, Corbell also pointed to the death of former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer Matthew Sullivan, 39, who died in 2024 before he could testify in a whistleblower hearing involving UFO-related programs. There's a picture there. His death is so suspicious in more ways than people know that the FBI and Congress are involved, Corbell said. Sullivan had worked in roles connected to military intelligence and advanced technology programs, and was reportedly scheduled to provide testimony about classified UFO-related matters before his sudden death. Corbell said the timing raised serious concerns, saying, quote, this is very uncharacteristic in so many ways of what's going on, and the timing is so bad. Maybe he was so distraught that he took his own life. I wasn't there. I don't know. But I do know that the FBI and Congress and people who knew him very well see this as extremely suspicious, and it's being investigated, end quote. While officials have not released full details surrounding the circumstances of Sullivan's death, the involvement of federal investigators has heightened fears among some whistleblowers about the risks tied to coming forward. Moreland said he chose to testify because he believed public safety was at risk. He said, quote, "I and others with direct knowledge of legacy non-human intelligence programs and craft have been subjected to crimes and disturbing actions intended to silence or intimidate us. Congress needed to know that this is real and that they have been misled in the past and deliberately lied at its worst. I went public to make sure the truth could no longer be buried and to demand accountability for the crimes committed against those who knew too much," end quote. Borland testified that the craft he witnessed in 2012 appeared as a black metallic triangle with what he described as a gold lava plasma-like fluid moving across its surface. He said the object hovered silently before accelerating upward instantly to commercial jet altitude. Borland also reported unusual physical effects during the encounter, claiming his phone overheated and froze, while static electricity filled the air and a smell similar to a thunderstorm lingered nearby. During the 2025 congressional hearing, he alleged that multiple government agencies blocked job opportunities, forged documents, and manipulated his security clearance after he came forward. See, people's lives are being ruined over this stuff. Afterward, Borland said he was asked to appear before the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to testify about unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, including what he witnessed more than a decade earlier. He said he provided classified and unclassified documents, medical records, and emails that he believed supported his claims. He said, quote, "Within weeks of my appearance, an ODNI employee informed me that I had lied under oath. That employee accused me of saying and doing things I did not say or do," end quote. He said the accusations reinforced fears that intelligence records had been manipulated to contradict his testimony. After requesting access to his records and to review how his statements were being used, Borland said communication from officials stopped entirely. Corbell said the fear surrounding whistleblowers has grown in recent years. He said, quote, "So you see in the movie that Borland is so afraid for his own personal safety, and that's the state we're all in right now. They feel like there's nowhere left to turn. They're really nervous for good reason. They've had some horrible things happen to them," end quote. Corbell said he has spoken to hundreds of individuals who claim to have knowledge related to UFO programs, though only a small number have formally testified. "I've had sources in every agency that I can name," he said. One of those sources was Matthew Brown, who came forward in May 2025 claiming the existence of a secret program called Immaculate Constellation, which he alleged collected classified UAP data. I believe we reported on that a couple of months ago. Brown previously worked in senior advisory roles within the Department of Defense and the State Department. He said, quote, "I came forward as a UAP whistleblower to Congress and the American people because my oath to support and defend the Constitution demanded it," end quote. He alleged that since coming forward, he has experienced disturbing incidents. He said, quote, "Some of the most disturbing experiences included my home being broken into while I was asleep, intelligence officers infiltrating my social networks, and attempts to discredit UAP whistleblower technology," end quote. He also warned that the intimidation was not always physical. He said, "Many of the battles now take place online where coordinated campaigns attempt to discredit whistleblowers through misinformation and public attacks. Interest in unidentified aerial phenomenon has surged in recent years, with lawmakers demanding increased transparency and access to classified material." Speaking of a lot of the battles taking place online, there's coordinated campaigns to discredit whistleblowers. We as Christians need to be very careful of this too. Because, of course, if there are people in there that want to do disinformation and want to do that, then we're the ones that they're going to want to shut up the most, us Christians, you and me. So be very, very careful when somebody has some hot take on the whole alien phenomena that you just don't know, you're not familiar with. It doesn't sound biblical, or it doesn't align perfectly with the Bible. Just be really careful, because you never know who these people are. I don't have any knowledge of anybody or anything, but I've had to just be extra careful what I read, who I read, what perspectives I entertain. So I just want to put that out there. Just be careful online because, of course, there would probably be a lot of disinformation agents online too. Reports from UFO whistleblowers stretch back decades, with individuals alleging the U.S. government has concealed evidence of non-human technology. The number of high-level witnesses has grown sharply since 2017, including military pilots, intelligence officials, and others claiming involvement in secret programs. Corbell said the stakes continue to rise as more witnesses weigh the decision to come forward. He said, quote, "They're doing this because they believe the public deserves to know, and for many of them, the cost is everything." And that's right. That's the main thing we got to keep in mind is these people, be them Christian or not, when they do come forward with information they believe they have, you just never know how things are framed. But a lot of times they lose everything, their credibility, they lose their families, their marriages, they lose their lives, their jobs. That happens quite a bit. So we just need to be aware of that. And so when that kind of stuff has historically happened, and then I see the White House with the aliens.gov and whatever, when I see them basically treating it like it's a joke, I mean, there's always some little cutesy thing that they're putting up with it. Like, I don't like that. It makes me feel like they're not taking it seriously, which makes me feel like maybe there is some disinformation stuff because I mean, I don't know. I just don't know with any of this. It's we live in a world where we've been lied to so much. It's hard. It's just hard to know who's really wanting to tell you the truth and who's not. If all of this stuff was just another disinformation campaign, then it would make sense why they're not taking it seriously. If there's nothing to tell, it would make sense why they're not taking it seriously. I think that whatever files, I don't think we're going to get any bombshells. I don't think that at all. I think it's going to be another Epstein thing where we're just not going to get what we collectively have our hopes up for. So I don't see that happening, but we'll see. We'll obviously on this channel we'll keep up with the story, and whenever news presents itself, I'll report on it. But in the meantime, I want to know what you think about all this. Is all of this disclosure stuff one disinformation campaign, just one big one? And if it is, who do you think it's coming from? The human players or the spiritual players, or both? Is there a coalition happening? A known coalition? What do you think is going on? I'd like to know what you think. Please leave a comment in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe. Click the bell to turn on all notifications. And until next time, love you all. Take care. God bless.